Hello everyone and welcome back to the BUSR Summer Series. It is round number 4 of the year and we are returning to the land of the rising sun. We are off to Autopolis. We're running the short circuit over there for our 2 races today. I'm Dan and as always I am joined by Tom. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, very good this week. Excited to get back to a track which does in fact exist in the real world. As you remember, last time out we were at Lithuania Motorsports Park in a completely virtual track. But yeah, a much faster affair this week, I'd gather. Like you said, the short circuit, it's only I believe it's less than 2 kilometers in length and looks a lot like Knockhill, so expect some close racing.
Yeah, it's a much shorter circuit, only 11 corners, and basically the entire first sector is flat with one heavy 90 right-hand corner at the end of the start-finish straight, into turn 1. So it's going to be a quick one. There's also a very complicated set of hairpins between turn 5 and turn 7 that should add an excellent opportunity for some cutbacks, some switching. Maybe you might get a few overtakes into there, but if not, turn 1 is going to be your key place to watch. These GR86 Cup cars, they're boosted from normal by the BUSR team to 300 and something, 120-ish horsepower, which is more than the stock cars have, but they're still a very powerful slipstream, so expect that down into turn 1. Just a word on last time out, our championship leader is still the unstoppable Jack Noller. Just checking I've got the right name there. He is still very much in the lead ahead of Aidan Larson. Josh Woolley in 3rd place is absent this week due to other commitments, but we do have a drop round, so this shouldn't hurt his championship too much, but of course not ideal that he's not here. But Jack Noller very much there at the front, along with Luke Pullen and Adam Sparrow, 2 newer drivers to the series as well. All 3 of these guys haven't been here in the last few ACE seasons, so seeing them all here and at the front is really encouraging to see.
Yeah, Luke Pullen in the practice session before the qualifying, which we're going to jump into shortly, was at the top of the times. And, you know, having been his first race this season, I believe he is not running any ballast at all. So potentially that's an advantage that he has over some of our other guys out there.
Absolutely. We have got cars starting to make their way around the circuit now, so we'll be cutting to that very shortly. But that lack of ballast for those 2, especially for Luke Pullen, is going to be a humongous help. It's 50 kilos for our championship leader Jack Noller, and then 45 for Aidan Larson, and further down you go. And although 50 kilos is not a lot in the grand scheme of a 1-ton car, when it's a difference between 2 identical cars at a track with a lot of acceleration zones, particularly out of turn 7 and out of turn 11 onto the start finish, and even out of turn 1, that extra mass is really going to hurt you. Last season we saw this to great effect. When Josh Woolley's Peugeot had a lot of ballast on, he really struggled, and when it didn't, he didn't struggle. So that is sort of, it shows the power of the ballast, which means that someone like Adam Sparrow, who's running a lot less, or maybe one of our further back drivers, meet the teacher, Jordan Pinnock, they might be able to push themselves further forward with that.
And yeah, compared to last week as well, it's a relatively small grid, only 20 drivers, so there's a good chance of picking up points. Remember, they go all the way down to 15th place. And also a good chance for some of our drivers who've not, let's say, not been in with the opportunity of getting a reverse grid pole, having the chance to do so, because second race is a reverse grid. 10th place becomes first place becomes 10th. You can figure out the rest.
Definitely that reverse grid, always a big difference, and it is a great motivator, especially for some of the drivers who often find themselves sort of between 10th and maybe 15th in this race. Definitely those drivers who qualify in those positions, they will all have their eyes on that position. We've got qualifying underway though now, as we've got cars coming around the circuit. Just a brief word on this track. It's obviously, like we said, in Japan. It was a racing resort for many years. The owner then had to sell it, and now it is owned by a different company, but it's 11 corners of wonderful Japanese goodness. It is the short circuit, so if you've played this track in video games, particularly Gran Turismo or maybe even iRacing, then you'll realise that doesn't quite look right. We are missing a large chunk. So we're at the end of just before we start finish straight, the cars turn right onto it rather than turning left away from it. So yeah, it is a reasonably well-known circuit over there in Japan to run Super GT, run Super Formula. That's the sort of level the cars that normally race around here, but we are of course in GR86 Cup cars. I'm currently on board with Alex Hughes, a pretty successful driver, definitely a BUSR veteran, I think would be an appropriate term to use for the Hughes part of the Hughes team. There's a whole bunch of them up and down the grid. Scored some solid points in Snetterton, but struggled in Lithuania, so we'll be hoping with this reduced grid helps them climb up some positions.
Yeah, and as we ride on board, it gives you a chance to have a first look at how wide the circuit is. If you remember last time out, we were at Lithuania Motorsports Park, which had quite a lot of runoff, making the track quite wide if you were using the phrase track limits rather liberally. But here we've actually got a lot of racing surface, apart from maybe this hairpin, which cuts you back to the start-finish straight on the short circuit. But yeah, it's a fairly wide track. Expect during the race anyway, expect 2-3 wides pretty easily into some of these corners, as I believe we get the first representative lap time in from John B, a 1:14.2.
Yes, and just a word on qualifying, you may notice that only some of the cars have come out onto circuit. We've got the top sort of 10-ish cars on circuit. That is because this is a split qualifying. This was a format introduced last season for the TCR cars out at, as the previously mentioned, Knock Hill circuit. Due to the sheer number of cars on track, the series organiser has made the call that this will be a split qualifying, which means that the top 10 cars from practice go out in session number 1, and then the second of the faster set of 10 cars will go out later on. They basically split the session in half by qualifying lap times. So that means that GT Nismo's current top lap time will stand for the remainder of this session, assuming no one beats it, and then the second set will all come out and try and beat it to claim full pole position. But it does mean that expect to see lap times drop well under a 1:13.2. We saw lap times in a 1:12 pretty handily in practice, so I would not be surprised if we get that coming in for session 2, maybe more than session 1. But this also gives a lot of our I'm not going to say back markers, but our back half a bit more space. They haven't got to look in their mirrors constantly and worry about your rapid drivers closing in behind. Alex Hughes, they're setting P4 overall so far with a 1:14.8. There's definitely room for improvement in there. Thomas Cannon with a 1:16.5. They had an Igor Vladislav jumps up to 5th place there with another driver into the 1:14. You've got to think for this lot, the 1:13 is definitely the target lap time for what they're aiming for. Jake Ansel, a very competitive driver, last time at Lithuania goes to 1:14.2. But yes, the session split in half, so around, I think it's about 12 minutes to go. The clock will, it's somewhere around that sort of mark, the clock will stop. Well, not the clock will stop, but the drivers will come back into the pits. The race organisers will announce this, and then we will start the second session with 10 minutes to go. But right now, GT Nismo leads the running with the only driver in the 1:13, and by quite a handy margin.
Yeah, and as seen at a couple of rounds before, there are a couple drivers out there who are maybe engaging in some slipstream gains. I believe John B and Alex Hughes, they're coming round the final corner to start the lap, as we see Thomas Cannon off the circuit at, I believe that is turn number 8, 100R. But yeah, considering how much of this track is straight, so you've got the run from turn 11 down to turn 1, and then really the run down from turn 1 to turn 3, then turn 8, as we were just on, where Thomas Cannon went out to turn 10, all basically being these very long straights where a toe might give you a little bit of time. But really, we're not seeing too many drivers, as what is going on here from Raul Yagas exploring the countryside, I believe.
Yes, this is it's a Assetto Corsa mod, so there are of course some key holes that one can exploit there. We see Raul Yagas and Meet the Teacher have parked themselves up on a nice hill overlooking turn 1, just hiding behind the barrier there for Raul Yagas. It's a great viewing point there if you're in real life, but of course it's a sim game, so I don't really see why they've bothered. Lots of grandstands here, of course. It's a big event, a big circuit. They've held top quality events. They very nearly held a Formula 1 race here in the 1990s, but then the spot was changed for Donington Park instead. So it's a track with some speed to it, as we see lap times. We've got another couple of drivers into the 1:13s now, which is what we like to see. GT Nismo, those lap time looks pretty unassailable for now, except Jake Ansel looks to be going quite quick. John B's having a decent lap as well. They're improved. They didn't improve any actually in that lap time. It was in position. They improved in time, but not in position.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Jake Ansel with the purple first sector. Looks to be around about a second up on his best lap, which at the minute is a 1:14.2. So maybe in the running to get that top spot off GT Nismo, as he does come across the line, and that's a 13.1, just pipping out GT Nismo to this provisional pole position in this first session.
Yeah, we know Jake Ansel is a quick driver. They, like I said earlier, had some cracking finishes out at Lithuania Motorsport Park, scored a very solid 40 points, which was enough to shoot them up to 16th in the championship, which when you consider that they didn't start at Okayama and they only scored 4 points in Snetterton, being currently 16th out of a rather large grid of 25 people who have scored points. There's a lot of drivers who haven't scored a point yet, so this would be a key event for them to try and score their first point. But they've really shown their pace, Ansel, and you've got to think that with no ballast, they are going to be one of the drivers that are going to be hot on the tail of our championship leaders to, well, just go for race wins, really. I think that's going to be Ansel's target, and GT Nismo will be hoping that they can stay near the front as John B comes around again. No improvement for them. They're just trying their best, getting the laps in, getting the practice in to see if they can make up any position, because it's only a small gap up to Ben Gilroy ahead. Only 2/10 separate those two drivers so far.
I mean, yeah, exactly as you say there, Dan. A lot of these drivers, especially in the first qualifying session, you'd have to think just lapping, trying to get the experience in, more or less. Not necessarily saying that they haven't been practicing in the lead up to this, but when you look down our timing tower and see the amount of people who are kind of just continuing to pound in the laps, even though the tyres might be past their best, it might well be the case that some of these guys are just going out there trying to get the laps and trying to experiment with the lines, as that's off the track. The car with the blue headlights, the very bright blue headlights, which is, I can't quite figure out from my timing screen, but yeah, that's not the lines you want to be taking through there. Justin Nguyen, let's go with that. But yeah, P10 at the minute, probably just turning laps to figure out this track. It's totally plausible thing to do in these qualifying sessions. You might as well make the most of them.
Definitely. I always found that whenever I have raced in sim, whether that's with the BUSR or other shall not be named racings, that the qualifying session kind of becomes almost a second practice session. I was never near the front enough, which, as these guys were at the back of qualifying, is a reasonably fair assumption, but they're not going to be quite at the top end. Maybe we'll see a great lap from Jake Ansel, who comes across the line there to set a very not good lap time, going to be honest with you. GT Nismo's last lap time was an out lap, so not representative from them. Thomas Cannon's lap time is no improvement either, so they're still looking for that magical 1:14, I think it is, for their target. But yeah, it's a crucial session, not least for learning where you are in terms of on the day, because you may have practiced on, say, the Sunday or even Monday afternoon. But this is the mood, this is the condition and the mood you're going to be in. This is how your car's going to feel. This is what it's going to be like when you go racing in about 20 minutes time. So it's a really good session to get that practice in, to also learn where you are with other cars, to see roughly where your pace is, and to match your expectations for the going ahead session.
And yeah, the gaps are kind of telling a bit of the story. There's around a track with a lap time as low as a 1:13, really you'd expect the gaps to be closer, and maybe that just does speak about how this track might be unfamiliar to some, a bit like Lithuania last time out. I doubt a lot of our drivers would have driven Lithuania before, and we heard in the post-race interviews that a lot of them were learning it as they went. And to be perfectly honest, with Autopolis, this is not a track that I'm familiar with, as it is not laser scanned on the sim that shall not be named. But yeah, maybe some of these drivers out here just getting the lap experience under their belt, and when you compare it to someone like Snetterton, a very well-known track, a staple of the British scene that we raced at in round 2, the gaps there were much closer than we're seeing at the minute.
Definitely, and just a word on that front-running battle. GT Nismo putting a stunning lap off camera to put them right behind Jake Ansel, but couldn't quite take session 1 pole position. John B, another driver who's just on an out lap now, so they're continuing on their pace. The clock is ticking down. These guys have not got long left. I think it's probably under 2 minutes. I'm not quite sure on the timings, but they've definitely not got long left. Dystopian there sets a new best, moves up to 5th place at 1:14, 3:64. Here's Ben Gilroy coming towards the line there, currently also on a not optimal lap time. So definitely not what they're hoping for come later on. Alex Hughes, another one of our drivers, coming up towards, there you go, there's the clock. So once the clock hits 1300, well, 13 minutes I suppose left, and then it'll be returned to pits for our session 1. So, and there it is, what is more than likely provisional pole, and definitely pole in Group 1. Jake Ansel with a 1:13.145. No other driver is improving by any major margins. GT Nismo is in the pit lane, so their session is as good as over. If they come across the line, so theirs is as good as over. Thomas Cannon sets their lap but doesn't improve, so that's their session done as well. But that does appear to be session done for nearly everyone. I believe it's only John B and Dystopian, I think, are currently lapping, because the clock is now under 1300. Oh no, there's still more cars. We'll have to see if any of them continue on with their lap times as the clock ticks towards 0.
And yeah, fairly close times in the top 5 of this group. Well, top 4, I suppose. There's a 7/10 gap back to Dystopian, which then falls away into kind of 3/10 back from there. But really, maybe the top 4 of this group will find themselves in kind of interwoven throughout the group that we're going to see qualifying in just a few moments' time. Because those lap times, while we did see some 1:12s in practice, they do look pretty competitive on paper. But Group 2 qualifying will be commencing imminently, and there's no doubt in my mind that this will be an entertaining qualifying to watch. There they are back on the track. Jordan Pinnett leading the line. Out of first turn down this long straight into turn 3. The wiggly middle sector complex now coming up, made up of quite a few turns. There's a long left-hander followed by a quite sharp hairpin. But we didn't see it in the first group. This tow battle which we saw at Snetterton and a little bit at Lithuania Motorsport Park, but all of our drivers in the first group are now in this group. And this group, is it the first group? Who knows? But all the drivers in this group are very close together. We might be seeing some potential draft battles from some of these guys as we focus on Aidan Larson, currently sitting P2 in our overall championship, probably going to be tipped as one of the favourites for this race. And Jack Noller, as always, on his own actually in this qualifying session, so maybe doesn't want to be affected by any of the dirty air generated by some of the other cars. Maybe that's the strategy to go for, but the first couple of drivers across the line, Jordan Pinnock, Adam Sparrow, Rao Yagas, all very tightly packed together for this first attempt in the second qualifying session.
Yeah, Jack Noller left it very late coming out of pit lane. Maybe that was an issue, maybe they just were being patient, or maybe they did want that clean air. We'll have to ask if this proves to be consequential towards the end of the race. Just a word on a driver that we've got, I believe they're in the session, they're appearing on our time machine, which is Jordan Danchev. They were well known in the TCR cars, haven't really made an impact in any of our other sessions, but they are back and ready. Adam Sparrow, another one of our highly impactful drivers this season. They've scored some very, very solid positions, very solid points all throughout this season, both they did in any of our previous AC racing.
See a couple drivers gathering at turn 1, out the pits, going for a nice scenic view of this qualifying session, as I believe we're about to get the first representative lap times from our drivers coming through. It'll be Jordan Pinnock first across the line to set a lap time.
Yeah, we should have our first lap times in nice and soon. Andrea Ruggi puts a 1:13.676 on the board, which is about half a second off of Jake Ansell's session 1 pole position. Owen Goldsmith goes closer with a 1:30, and there it is, Luke Pullen with the first really competitive lap time of the session, a 1:13.138, his stunning race 2 victory last time out of Lithuania. Definitely not a fluke. The driver that arrived late and yet is performing well. He is definitely going to be one to watch. And Jack Noller is the first into the 1:12, a 1:12.924. He breaks the beam and he breaks the 1:13 barrier. There it is. That's the man leading the championship. A podium at every round, race wins in 2 out of 3. He's definitely going to be the one to beat for any of our other drivers, particularly Pullen and Ansell.
And maybe the strategy of going out there by yourself has seemed to work so far for Jack Noller. This twisty middle sector, maybe it loses you a bit too much time just being in that dirty air and the aero wash of the cars in front of you. So our next set of lap times as Jordan Pinnock across the line improves to 13.0. Let's see if anyone else can match that. so
Yeah.
far.
It's definitely looking close at the front. That 1:12 barrier is still looming. Well, 1:13 barrier still looming large ahead. But Luke Pullen smashes it. What a lap time from the newcomer to the series. 1:12.734. That bare white Toyota coming in like a bat out of hell to do that. Will we see a response from Nola? He appears to be improving through sector 2 and 3, but his lap time is not going to improve his position. But it was a faster lap time. That was a 7.64 compared to the Pullen 7.34. The gap is close, but it is still in favour of Pullen. This is going to be a very interesting qualifying session as we go into the last 7 minutes between those two. Jordan Pinnock, the best placed of the rest, running no ballast, as well as Jake Ansell, who's also running no ballast. But what a performance from those front runners to put in those two very close and very competitive lap times. Jordan Pinnock is improving, was purple in sector 1, up towards the line. He goes to 1:12.978. He's under the 1:13 barrier, but has not yet claimed the magic. Well, he's still in 3rd place. So we're seeing lots of improvements of time, but none of position. Owen Goldsmith, another one of our key drivers there, comes across the line. No improvement from him of note up to 8th place. Still good. And oh my gosh, Luke Pullen's gone faster again. We are seeing pole laps coming in left, right and centre from this man. He goes even quicker with a 1:12.650. What a lap time. This session just keeps getting faster and faster.
Yeah, indeed it does. And I mean, we saw the fastest lap from GT Nismo in that first qualifying session, kind of right towards the end of the session. So I expect lap times to come down further and further. But Jordan Pinnock on the last lap that he did must have lost a heap of time in the final sector, because he was up nearly 3/10 on his personal best, which would have put him up there with Luke Pullen and Jack Noller. But don't count him out of this, as we see Jordan Pinnock come around the final corners. I don't think this will be an improvement on lap time, but by the looks of it, you just keep having to go around and just see where you can extract the time from. Just keep the tires fresh, run the car until the fuel is incredibly low, and see where you can get up to.
Meet Teacher up to 4th place. They are the fastest driver not in the 1:12, which is very good. I mean, Meet Teacher, a driver we've not seen anything ridiculously incredible from, but still very strong performance from them. They're going to be happy with that if they can hold it to the end of the session in that lovely 242 liveried car. They scored 24 points in both races in Lithuania, so he's done really, really well, I think, for himself there. He's going to have to try and push forward, though. I think he'll be hoping to anyway.
And GT Nismo's lap from the first qualifying session still good for P7, considering that realistically, if we'd base this off practice, you'd expect them to be down in 11th place. But no, it's still a pretty decent lap time, not miles away from the likes of Jordan Pinnock and Meet the Teacher, as you just mentioned there, Dan. As we see Jordan Pinnock again, it's almost like deja vu watching him come around this final corner. And is this going to be an improvement on the lap time? We'll have to wait just a couple of seconds until he comes across the line, and it is an improvement. He gets ever so slightly closer to Jack Noller and Luke Pullen out in front. And can Jack Noller respond to Luke Pullen at the top with a 12.6 to beat?
Yeah, we're going to have a Cleary coming across the line there. It appears to still be 2nd place for Jack Noller. The lap time not improving where he needs it. Luke Pullen also sticking with his current personal best. Aidan Larson, though, the driver, very much out of position. He jumps up, but he doesn't. He's still in 13th. That is not a great lap time from him. The ballast really affecting the Aussie in his dress-up darlings team car. He's got a lot of time to find if he wants to be at the front end when the session ends.
Yeah, absolutely. And within our top 5, well, 3 of the top 5 actually don't have any ballast, so maybe it is playing quite a big role in this qualifying session so far. And Jack Noller with that 50 kilograms of ballast being a 10th off, well, you have to ask yourself where would he be without that ballast? How many tenths to the good would he be of Luke Pullen? But one can only wonder, as we see again Jordan Pinnock coming around the final sector. I'm repeating myself here. And does he improve on the 12.8 lap time? It doesn't appear so, but he will have just over 3 minutes to get that lap time down again and close in on Jack Noller and Luke Pullen.
He's going to have to make an absolute barnstormer of a lap. We know Jordan Pinnock's got pace. He's just one of the unluckiest drivers on the grid. As Luke Pullen goes even faster, I can't think of any more superlatives for him in this session. He is just on absolute form. A 1 minute 12.5. He's extended that gap behind, and he is now very, very much looking like the favourite to at least top the session, if not the races, if he gets the luck in going forward. I thought I'd do a quick bit of research on Luke Pullen, but we'll have to come back after that as Adam Sparrow comes across the line, as does Jack Noller, but no improvement from either of those two drivers. Luke Pullen, just a word on him, he currently races Master MX-5s in America. He's that good, he's moved continent to continue his racing career, and he hopes to be in more bigger Masters next year. That's just showing the pace he's got. We've got a couple of Master racers like Luke Pullen, Jack Noller and Adam Sparrow, but Luke Pullen has gone into the States to do it, which is a whole different world from British racing, because of course it's all bigger. Andrea Ruggi and Jordan Pinnock setting some lap times. No one's showing any signs of serious improvement yet. With only 2 minutes to go, it's looking good for Luke Pullen up ahead, I have to say.
And I'll tell you what, Jordan Pinnock is absolutely mighty in that first sector. Just to put how quick he is into context, he's nearly a tenth quicker than Luke Pullen, as Luke Pullen does indeed improve on that lap time again. So the gap out the front is now, approaching 0.3 of a second over Jack Noller, which at a track as short as this is something to be said. Maybe it's the fact that the lack of paint on that Toyota has shaved off some tenths, but wow, that's a mighty impressive lap time from Luke Pullen out there. Definitely,
and no response from Jack Noller. That was not a competitive lap time. We've got Andrea Ruggi spun and completely stationary there at what appears to be, I think that's the end of the lap time going into turns, between 10 and 11. They pulled over to the side there, got a nice out of the way. They're driving the wrong way around the circuit. Not a great thing to be doing on a racetrack, but they have got themselves nice and cleanly rejoining here, just in time for Jordan Pinnock to come towards the line. Their lap time was showing improvement early on. Let's see if they can keep that pace towards the end. It was a 1:13.5, I believe, so not their best. Meet the teacher. They're on an out lap, so they're not competitive right now. Raul Llagas, though, is a driver we've not seen much of this session, but they jumped straight up to 4th. What a lap time from them. That is incredible stuff. They are well and truly now in that fight, just scraping under the 1:13s.
Yeah, going back to Jordan Pinnock again on that lap time, another improvement on the first sector. So his first sector is actually a tenth faster than anybody else's first sector. So you have to question either if he finds the time during the race, during the middle sector of the lap, this like long, twisty, quite technical section of the lap, maybe we can count him into the runnings for a podium or race win here, as we see Adam Sparrow across the line. Not much more of an improvement, and we are into overtime, so these drivers will have one final shot at it, and let's see if anybody can get anywhere close to those top two.
Yeah, we are running out of time, running out of laps, running out of corners here for Meet the Teacher. A big twitch cuts the inside curb coming through turn 11. That will not help their lap time. Should stay valid, though, as they kept too tired within the white lines. But they come across the line, a 1:13.2 for them, so no improvement. They will qualify in 6th place. We've already got cars in the pit lane. Luke Pullen, he's just going to have fun at this point. I mean, he doesn't need to improve. He's well and truly clear. And he's gone purple in Sector 2, but did not set any improvement in Sector 3, so his lap time, which would have been good enough for pole position, is still good enough for pole position because he set one faster. Jack Noller pulled over at the side of the road. Their day is done. Adam Sparrow, realistically, the last driver who can challenge. They're also cutting that inside curve as much as they dare, putting the power down, firing themselves towards the pretty early start-finish straight, and they move up to 4th place. Adam Sparrow jumps Raul Llagas a 1:24.9. That puts them in the top 4. That means we've got our 3 MX-5 drivers in real life in the top 4, with Jordan Pinnock being the car that you could argue is a little bit out of place. But I believe that is pretty much qualifying over, at least definitely for competitive lap times, which means Luke Pullen will take pole position. I believe that's his first pole position of the season. Yes, it is. And then Jack Noller, Jordan Pinnock, and Adam Sparrow, the car on screen there, in 4th place. Raul Llagas with a really great 5th place, and Meet the Teacher, the last of the point scoring qualifying. Then Jake Ansell, Owen Goldsmith, Andrea Ruggi, Aidan Larson, and then GT Nismo, Ben Gilroy, Kessas, John B, and Dystopian rounds out your top 15 with Bailey, Alex Hughes, and Igor Vazevev in 18th, then Thomas Cannon and Justin in 19th, and then that's basically it. So that's our grid set and ready to go. I'm looking forward to this. We've got 2 races coming up, both 20 minutes. Both of them have that crucial +1 lap at the end. And then, of course, we have the reverse grid race 2. But man, what a performance from Luke Pullen, their first pole position in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be saying that somebody would be going nearly 3/10 faster than Jack Noller a couple rounds ago would have seemed impossible. But here we have a contender from America, Luke Pullen, racing in the MX5 Cup, as you mentioned, Dan, taking it to him out there. And I'll be interested to see how much of a gap can be pulled at the front, because this is a very technical track, and it seems that if you can just get that edge during the middle sector of the lap, once you get back down to the relatively long start-finish straight with drivers behind, not in tow, you should be really home and dry. So can Jack Noller catch up to Luke Pullen? That is the question.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially after the race start. We've obviously got no ballast for the pole man, but a lot of ballast, the maximum ballast for the driver in second place, which is going to be really interesting to see how these cars get off the line. It is a standing start. The driver basically just build the revs and then select first gear when the lights go out. So that will be really interesting to see how the added weight really heavily affects our McLaren development driver of Jack Noller in second place. But looking at the lap times they set in qualifying, both of them were really consistently under the 1:13s, but Luke Pullen was really consistently faster than Jack Noller. I think that's just the ballast. I think is a lot of that. Like we said, Luke Pullen, he raced in Britain for years in MX5s and then moved over to America. So he's obviously got pace in him. Jack Noller races MX5s and also McLaren development driver. Jordan Pinnock, he's just a guy. He does BMX riding. And then Adam Sparrow, another MX5 racer in real life. The cars are on the grid now, so we'll be going racing nice and quickly. But it's going to be really interesting. I think the battle also for reverse grid pole position, Aidan Larson is currently sat in 10th place. We expected more from him, so maybe we'll see that in the race. But drivers like him and GT Nismo and Ben Gilroy are really going to be looking for that reverse grid pole position.
Yeah, crucially for the championship as well. If Aidan Larson wants to have any hope of hanging on to Jack Noller out at the top, this is going to be a really important race 1 for him. Maybe if he can just stay around 9th or 10th position, get that reverse grid pole, and then hope that there's some ensuing carnage in race 2. That would allow him to close in on Jack Noller at the front. But really either that or he has to find some pace during race 1. But there's quite a few cars between him and Jack Noller out in front, but expect the battle for P1 to be very spicy.
Definitely. I mean, it's previously always been a case of whoever can get clear shall win. We have actually not really spoken much about whoever's won the race for a lot of, especially race 1, when it tends to be won from the front sort of 4 cars. So if either of our 2 or even of our front 4 get all the way clear, then that's basically them gone. They're done for the day. We'll catch them at the end, talk about how well they've done, and then we'll move on. But the battle behind them should be great, unless we get a pack running away. If we get a front 4 that run away as a group, then we could see something very spicy towards the end. Think a bit like a Tour de France peloton kind of deal, where you've got the main pack battling behind and your leaders running off into the distance in a breakaway group. Will we see that here? I'm not quite sure. The gaps are looking pretty big between especially pole, second place and third place, but I'd love to see it now. We've got the cars on the grid. There is Luke Pullen in that basic, bare, beautifully white car. Then Jack Noller in second. Ignore the error on the timing graph there. Jack Noller is definitely the man in second place in that McLaren car. Very distinctive. And then you've got Adam Sparrow and Jordan Pinnock next up. And then the teammates of Raul Llagas and Meet the Teacher in 5th and 6th place. They're just behind in the purple and the blue. We've got a whole lovely range of colours here, with at least one car starting in the pit lane. Not sure if that's intentional, but that's where they're sat. And then, yeah, Jordan Pinnock there in the Demon Tweaks sponsored Bensky car. A great qualifying from him. He's going to be really pleased with that as we get the lights ready for racing at Autopolis. Here we go. We've got 7 seconds on the clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lights on at Autopolis. Rock and roll, let's go racing. Great start from the second place man of Jack Noller. Luke Pullen bogging down off the start. That ballast difference evidently not really affecting there. The reaction times for Noller much better. The cars are side by side as we go down towards turn 1. It's a heavy braking zone into a very tight downhill right-hander there as the cars come sweeping through. Jake Ansell pushing, I believe that's Meet the Teacher, very wide. There's a car over in the gravel who's dropped to many places. Lots of little bumps going on up and down the grid. This is GR86 racing. What do you expect? We've got cars going through there as it moves up the inside. I think it was Dystopian and Kessus having a little fight there. Definitely Kessus involved in some of the early battling. Andrea Ruggi, though, fighting up near the front. Kessus still in 9th place, holding that position quite well from their start, but Meet the Teacher has dropped like a stone down to 10th places. And that's Jake Ansell, I believe, being shuffled out very wide. Their race going from not great to worse already. But Luke Pullen has kept the lead off of the start. Jack Noller has not quite managed to find that pace they got off the start to take the first place and has to settle for second. We've got lots of battling going on though. Owen Goldsmith made up a lot of places into 4th.
And yeah, it was a horrible start from our second row on the grid, which just really checked everybody up going into turn 1. And of course, this is a off-camber downhill right-hand corner, which meant loads of people just ran out wide, basically, came back onto the track and checked everybody up. And that means that after 1 lap, Jack Noller and Luke Pullen are nearly 3 seconds clear out in front. But back behind them, I think it's anyone's game. Jake Ansell and Owen Goldsmith making up quite a few positions there on the start, just avoiding the chaos, being able to smartly drive through it, and they're running away as well. As in the background, I believe that is Kessus off into the gravel. So yeah, not a great start for some of our drivers out there, not least of all Kessus, who's rejoining the track tail between his legs. But Raul Llagas and Andrea Ruggi fighting as they do, as that's contact and round for Raul Llagas, just got a bit loose going into turn number 8 there.
Yep, not the best. Raul Llagas, always a very quick driver, but can be a little bit overly aggressive, a little bit inconsistent, and that's just showing there. Aiden Larson, one of the drivers we said to watch early on, still struggling down in 8th. His car much heavier ballast-wise than any of the cars ahead of him, really up until Ruggi in 5th is the only one close to him. But Meet the Teacher, the car ahead, is down. Oh, there's a dive bomb for Ben Gilroy. That was very interesting racing. Meet the Teacher getting absolutely sideswiped. Nothing they could do from what we saw. I'm not going to put blame on it, but it didn't look great. We've got our first couple of laps in the books. Luke Pullen continuing to pull away from Jack Noller, then Jake Ansell. Now Aiden Larson gains a place in all that carnage. Their teammate, well, the next car up ahead is their ex-teammate, well, definitely good friend, Jordan Pinnock up ahead. We've got this little 3-car train forming behind between GT Nismo, John B, and the name that I shall not pronounce in 10th place.
Yeah, and the gap now out in front up to 5 seconds as Luke Pullen is really stretching the legs of that GR86, putting nearly 2 seconds over Jack Noller, which, yeah, I didn't expect to see going into this round, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, right behind them, we still got 2 wide action. We said it in the pre-race build-up that this track was very wide. You could quite comfortably get 2 cars around here, but yeah, the middle sector of this track, maybe you want to be single file. It's a very flowing, very technical part of the track, but Meet the Teacher quite out of position here, possibly due to some of those checkups and some of that carnage on the opening lap, but making a very smart move down the inside of Hughes as we run down the start-finish straight and onto the next lap.
Yeah, everyone's keeping it reasonably line astern, especially down these big main straights where you can get that tow. We see GT Nismo has got a good run on John B up ahead. The green Nismo car trying to run around the outside of the number 88. They're in different classes on the window screen, but this is points overall, so this is a big move for GT Nismo. We scored some solid points from them last time out, but they're trying for more. Right now, they want that 8th place, and they want that progression up towards the front of the grid. They're a new driver this season, but they're performing well. And there they go, get the switch back on John B. Can't quite make it stick. John running it around the outside, keeping the pace up, using his vast BUSR experience to stay ahead of the relative newcomer. They're still battling hard as we come through towards the end. Well, that's just coming out of the hairpin and down towards the very hard, fast left-hand corner of 100R. Yeah,
so some pretty clean scraps going on throughout here, and it looks quite easy to be able to stay in a train as we see the Rev Sport International car there tucked up behind Owen Goldsmith as There's going to be a draft battle down here into the first corner as Jay Cancel takes to the inside, and there should be a fairly clean pass. The move should be done before the braking zone. Owen Goldsmith, remember, running 20 kilograms worth of ballast, Jay Cancel running none. And that was a pretty textbook move despite the slide at the apex, but up into third place, up into the first of the podium places, but an absolute age away from our top two of Luke Pullen and Jack Noller, who have disappeared off into the distance. We've said it in races gone, as there's a slide there through the apex for Owen Goldsmith, who is going to get his pockets pinched by Andrea Ruggi, potentially. So there's a little bit of contact, it goes wide, and through swoops Jordan Pinnock, reclaiming that second row position which he had at the start of this race. So yeah, really feisty battles going on up and down our top five here.
It's always close racing in the BUSR, but maybe not quite at the front. Those two leaders putting in lap times well clear of anyone behind. Everyone behind is sort of in the low 14s to the mid 13s. The two leaders already into the 12s. So, you know, they're always going to be clear. We knew they were going to be, but we didn't think they'd be this clear this early on. We've got a three-car train is still running very much so behind. John B is definitely the bottle in the cork that Owen Goldsmith got past GT Nismo. He's running that number 11, that class champion car, the Green Banned alumni class. So he's obviously, you know, a driver that knows what he's doing, but he's still can't find a way past John B just yet. Hopefully he will be able to, though, for his own sake. Obviously I have no bias before or against him, but hopefully by the end of the race he'll find a way for his sake. He's looking for moves wherever possible, just so he can go and catch up to that battle for the, well, I suppose it's the podium positions really, between Ansel, Pinnock, Ruggi and Larson.
And yeah, Jake Ansel pulling nearly 2 seconds to the good of Jordan Pinnock there since we saw that battle last lap, so perhaps freeing himself from this squabbling, which is really costing some of our top 10 quite a bit of time. But yeah, we have Andrea Ruggi here sat up behind Jordan Pinnock with Aidan Larson in behind. All three of these potentially contesting for a third place of the overall championship. Potentially even second place now that Josh Woolley is missing this round, but as we mentioned, drop rounds are in play here. So really a chance for these guys to make some headway into the championship standings and establish themselves within the top three after this race.
Yeah, it's a good chance to show your performance, and especially to score points if you've not scored points before. Drivers like Thomas Cannon, he's definitely going to be looking for a result today. We know he's got pace in him. He's not scored points all season, but he's currently running in 14th, so hopefully there'll be some points on the table for him going forward. Yeah, Andrea Ruggi, though, that is a car we've spoken about a lot before. Had a stunning couple races with a very, very good pair of podiums in round 1 and round 2. A little bit less good in Lithuania, but much better in qualifying than at Snetterton. So they're a solid contender, especially for open class wins and open class points. The lovely Italian we've spoken to before, he shows great pace, but where he really shines is in defence. Sheer raw bravery is what he specialises in, and I'm sure he'll do it again going forwards. As we see, he's being chased by Aidan Larson, a very quick driver, but we've seen before, he's a hard-fought defender, a real fight like a lion, Sergio Perez 2021 Abu Dhabi kind of driver. But Aidan Larson, he's just so fast. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
And yeah, Aidan Larson moving up quite a number of places. I think he's moved from 11th in qualifying up to 5th in the race. So yeah, really showing that the more he's going around this track, the more he's learning, the faster he's getting. And we know he's a fast driver, maybe just hasn't had the time to practice, or potentially at odds with some of the technical corners in this track as we run side by side down here towards the turn 3 right-hander. But Aidan Larson on the inside can't quite get the move done. That inside becomes outside, trying to track it around the outside. But yeah, Andrea Ruggi with his trademark aggressive defending there, not letting Aidan Larson get through one bit. But good news for Aidan Larson is that he does have 10 minutes to try and get past the GR86 of Andrea Ruggi and try and catch up to Jordan Pinnock. But really the gaps out in front have started to extend as Jack Noller there at the front, 5 seconds off Luke Pullen. Out in the lead, you can barely see him out in the lead. That's how far off he is, and dare I say, we're probably not going to see much of him on broadcast, which means, as we've said in the past, it will be a very dominant victory for him indeed.
Definitely, and Aiden Larson did not manage to find a way past while we were looking elsewhere. His last lap time was a 1:14.7, which is decent, but it's well off his best of a 1:13.5. So he's definitely getting held up here. He's making mistakes. He's being heavily defended against. It's costing them both lap time to Jordan Pinnett, running in a very nice 4th place up ahead. His lap time much more representative of 1:13.577 last time round. So that gap ahead will just continue to build while Ruggie puts in this incredible bottle in the cork, really brave and daring defence that we know he excels at. Just thought I'd point out that the podium is currently dominated by 3 drivers with 4-letter first names, 6-letter surnames who have 2 L's in them. Just thought I'd point that out. Owen Goldsmith currently in 8th place though, chasing down John B. Also another great defender, John, as proved by holding back Owen Goldsmith. Not had the season that he's been hoping for so far. I think he'll readily admit that. Great points at the start, but has been slowly getting less and less points with each round. So he'll be hoping that he can score well this time round. Past champion, knows what he's doing, but currently sits in 7th overall in the championship, which is much less than I think he'd be hoping for.
And remember, we have the reverse grids to think about as well. So Owen Goldsmith at the minute would be lining up on the 2nd row of the grid during race 2, and you know, if he can put the defences out, if he can borrow a couple of defensive tips off Andrea Ruggie, could look to get a podium in the 2nd race. But yeah, currently nothing doing, stuck behind John B. But if Larson and Ruggie continue to fight, this might bring the P7 and P8 placed drivers closer to this battle, and maybe we can have one big four car fight as we did at the end of race 2 at Lithuania Motorsports Park. That was what right down to the wire, that battle there. But for 5th place would also be nice round here. But yeah, with eight minutes to go, let's see what battles will ensue within this top 10, which is, to be fair, pretty spread out now.
Yeah, we are starting to see gaps build, which is, I suppose from a driving perspective, it is what you expect from a track like this, and what from a series that's starting to build. We're starting to get into a flow. Balance is starting to be applied. But I can't lie, from a racing perspective, I'd much rather see nose to tail 20-car battles for the lead every time. But that's not really possible. So we just got to keep going. Really, regardless of that, Owen Goldsmith still can't find a way past John B. His last lap, 1:14.1. Again, well off his best and much slower than the front runners who are consistently in the 1:12s. Luke Puller and Jack Noller very consistent at the front. His Cassius, a driver we've not seen much of since their mistake. They've been slowly clawing places back. They're behind Raul Llagas, another driver who has struggled with mistakes so far this race. And then Meet the Teacher up ahead, another one. So these 3 all a bit out of position because of early contact or maybe over-ambitious move, whether from them or from someone else. I shall give no comment. We've got just under 7 minutes to go now. Definitely considering that reverse grid pole. Meet the Teacher currently in it. Cassius and Raul Llagas would very much like it. However, Llagas and Meet the Teacher are teammates. They race together. They are good friends in real life. So they're going to try and help each other out as much as they can for that job well done team.
Aiden Larson closed right up to the back of Andrea Ruggie in that last lap. Basically nose to tail now, as we were hoping for just a moment ago. And Andrea Ruggie will have to break out his defensive moves yet again, as there's some bump drafting going down the start-finish straight. Maybe Aiden Larson doesn't yet want to pop the move, but he does as we cross over the start-finish line. Down into turn 1. Remember, this is a badly cambered corner, and there's a little bit of contact, a little bit of a excursion onto the grass for Andrea Ruggie as they run down now into turn 3. This is the 90-degree right-hander corner, which Aiden Larson does have the inside line for, but it's fast and it's flowing, and inside line is what Andrea Ruggie will inherit for this long left-hander. But again, this switchback nature of the track means that if you can remain too wide throughout the entire section, then who knows, you can force your opponent into a mistake, maybe push them wide a little bit. But it looks like this battle is going to continue for one more lap, as push wide indeed Aiden Larson is, as he again finds himself stuck behind Andrea Ruggie coming into the final corner of this lap. And really, this is what this short Autopolis circuit is all about, this wheel-to-wheel, door-to-door, exemplary racing from our 2 drivers here. But if you look in the background, that's brought John B and Owen Goldsmith mightily close, so one more lap of battling and they might be in the conversation again.
Yeah, those were both 1 minute 15.5 lap times now. As we see Aiden Larson, he's on the inside now. The two cars side by side on a very, very long run down to turn 1. The finish straight is almost a third of the entire lap. And there's contact nose to tail. Aiden Larson catches the slide. That is experience on show right there. He manages to keep it all together. He's claimed the place, but only for now. He's now running down towards the right-hander of turn 3. He has the inside line. He's clean through as long as he can now keep it clean and build the gap. That should be 5th place, reasonably safe for now. We've only got 4.5 minutes to go, so I'm not going to commentators curse it too early on, but he has made his way past Ruggi with that daring dive bomb after a solid lap of side-by-side action. He's finally got past the Italian, which now means he can, in theory, go and chase Jake Ansell. However, unless Aiden puts in some blistering lap times, that seems a little bit unlikely as we go towards the last sort of maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 laps tops.
And it remains to be seen if Andrea Ruggi can just stick with Aiden Larson through these final corners, because they are both running ballast, remember. Andrea Ruggi with 10 kilograms less than Aiden Larson, but both of them with significantly more from John B, who has got in within a second now and will definitely be benefiting from the tow from that GR86 of Andrea Ruggi out in front. And as he just drops further and further back from Aiden Larson, maybe out of the tow, in a lap's time or so, this will allow John B and Owen Goldsmith to close right in, and potentially a battle for 6th place will be on in the closing laps of this race.
Yeah, our front runners are very much clear, and there is, I believe, beginning to be some lapping happening, sort of. Yeah, so it's definitely not quite. The battle for the lead is very much. I'm going to say it's pretty much over now. They're starting to catch back markers, so that's something they have to consider. But the rest of the guys, from sort of, well, really Larson back, are all pretty close to each other. So that's really great to see now as we see the clock's gone under 3 minutes. Owen Goldsmith still chasing John B. He's been behind that car for what feels like eternity, and what in the car must feel like it too. Coming around the last corner to start another lap. Every driver seems to be cutting a lot of grass on that inside corner, hoping that they don't and get a better run onto the start-finish straight, but without causing any problems. And that's what happens when you free Aiden Larson up. A 1:13.1. He sets a great lap time, which means he closed up by about half a second on Jake Ansell last time round. But the gap's way too big, I think, with the amount of minutes he's got left to try and make an impact, shall we say.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe given another 5, 6, 7 minutes, Aiden Larson would absolutely be able to close in on Jake Ansell. But Jake Ansell really has benefited from all the checkups that really happened on the first lap and never looked back. It's a pretty decent result for him, as it should be noted that only Jack Noller is the only driver in the top 4 who has ballast. So maybe around this short circuit with its flowing sections, the ballast is playing more of a part than most would realise. But yeah, Owen Goldsmith still bottled up behind John B. Has maybe 2 more laps to try and pull a move. Looks close enough to maybe think about it into turn 1 or into turn 3 even. But for the most part, for our top 5, our top 6 drivers, it looks to be position settled. Just hoping that I don't commentators curse that.
Yeah, the race seems to have almost, I'm not going to say stagnated, but it's definitely settled down. I think the lack of drivers, not to say lack of drivers, 20 is still a really good number, but the lack of drivers has ever so slightly hurt our competitiveness. Just a word on Adam Sparrow. He's sitting in 20th place. He's a lap down. He has been lapped by a good chunk of the grid. So his race has evidently gone wrong. Not quite sure why, but it's definitely gone wrong. Whereas Owen Goldsmith has been stagnating in a different way, in that he's still behind John B. He'll obviously be near the front for the start of race 2 with Meet the Teacher and GT Nismo. That green car will just be out of shot there, or just in shot, sorry. So, and there's another fastest lap for Luke Pullen, who just keeps going faster and faster. But anyway, GT Nismo has not had the race they were hoping for. I think they're probably looking to push up more, score some really solid points, but they've just not quite managed to make it work for them yet. But still, 9th place, they'll get the points on the board, and I think they'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to remember as well the reverse grid for the second race. Currently it's Meet the Teacher, primed for the pole position grid slot, and GT Nismo in second place, and so on and so forth. But given the pace advantage that Luke Pullen, Jack Noller and Jordan Pinnock have really enjoyed over the rest of the field. You have to wonder if any of these guys towards the bottom of the top 10 can put up a staunch defence to stop any of these guys from getting through. I mean, I can bet on one thing, that Andrea Ruggi will certainly make it hard for them. But yeah, these guys down towards the back end of the top 10 will have it all to do defensive-wise in this second race.
Definitely, they're not going to make it easy. No one's going to make it easy for our front runners. They never do. They never just jump out of the way. That defeats the point and isn't very fun. This would be a very solid points haul for John B. He's scored points in the last 4 races, so this would be his 5th on the bounce with good solid points. Owen Goldsmith, though, he'll have been hoping for more than 8th place, you have to say. Leader is on the final lap, so the countdown is beginning. A couple of other drivers, GT Nismo, like we said earlier, he scored 7 points at Snetterton, so these points here will be great for his championship. And the driver back, I believe they're currently still in 15th, Thomas Cannon, will be very happy. And GT Nismo's just gone off. I should really stop talking about points before the end of the race. They are going to drop down a few places, I think, but they're going to hold on to it. That means that Meet the Teacher gets promoted out of reverse grid pole position, and Raul Llagas inherits it. They are teammates, so that is really great for that. They probably will, well, hopefully work together at the start of the second race now, as most of our cars are on their final lap. But Owen Goldsmith, this is his final chance, and Andrea Ruggi, this is his final chance to beat Jake Ansell. There's contact situation, a sweep around the outside. He's got a defensive line, inside line into the next corner. He keeps it ahead. Jake Ansell not found the way past he was hoping for, but these two have been close for the last 5 minutes or so. Ansell been shaping up the move, and now he's trying to make it work. But Luke Pullen, the driver we've not seen all race, and that's for good reason. He was blisteringly quick with a 10-second lead over Jack Noller, sets the race, well, easily wins race 1 of the day. Then Jack Noller comes across to finish in a very reputable and respectable with his ballast amount P2. Jordan Pinnock, he'll be very happy with this. His first podium and his best finish of the season by quite some margin, all things told. He's going to be very pleased with that. Aidan Larson recovered well up to 4th place, a very good result for them. They will score some solid points for their championship, but then it is going to be Ansell 5th and Ruggi who lost out on that last lap. And then John B in 7th, Owen Goldsmith finishes at 8th place, couldn't find a way past. Meet the Teacher, Raul Llagas, and then Kessler and GT Nismo dropped due to commentator's curse down to 12th place. Still points, they're still going to be happy with that, I'm sure, but not the race they were hoping for. Dystopian, our defending student champion, down in an acceptable but still slightly disappointing position just outside of the top 10 in 13th. Then Alex Hughes in 14th, and Ben Gilroy takes the last point off Thomas Cannon. If a 15th and 16th, Thomas Cannon going to be disappointed with that, I'm sure. And then we've got Igor in 18th and Bailey in 19th. So that's the end of race 1. A very dominant victory for Luke Pullen, I'm sure. No one is really that surprised after qualifying. I think the bigger question is, can he do it again from 10th place on the grid?
You wouldn't put it past him to do so. I mean, nearly 10 seconds clear of Jack Noller is nothing to be sniffed at, and yeah, considering the amount of, I guess, excursions into the gravel, into the grass at turn 1 that we saw from some of our mid-pack in 10th, from kind of 6th place down, you would really suggest that Luke Pullen and Jack Noller, if they could keep their noses clean, which I know hasn't necessarily been the case all season, but if they could, then they could run away with it again, I'd wager. So yeah, it remains to be seen.
As is definitely one of our keys to victory, particularly here when we've got a smaller grid. If you can keep clean on lap 1 and you're in the front pack, and you're in the front for race 1, you can keep it clean off the start. Should be pretty easy pickings to make your moves where you know you can. The pace difference is going to be blunt. It's pretty high. The fastest laps are in the 1 minute 12 and a half. The slowest are somewhere in the low 14s. So you've really got a big pace difference, particularly from the front runners of Noller, Pullen and Pinnock. They're all in the 1 minute 12s in race pace. So if they can keep it clean on lap 1, all they have to do really is last until the end of the second sector, the start of even pretty much even 10, 11, it's not a particularly long lap, then they are going to be flying through this pack. And I have to think that their key to victory is just getting through lap 1. We say it every time. It's going to be slightly easier here though, with that lower entry, but we'll have to see. We get race 2 started soon, but we are going to have to interrupt our proceedings very shortly for a word from our sponsor. there you have it. Grid Finder, our perennial series sponsor. We love them dearly. They do a great work for us. You can come and find us on Grid Finder as well. You can meet all sorts of racing leagues across the series, across the site, whether you want to race single-seaters, touring cars, GT cars, or have silly fun messing around, or go and race in the game that shall not be named. You can find it all on Grid Finder, but equally if you want to come and join us at the BUSR, we'd love to have you. Entries are closed currently for this series, but we have got our autumn winter series coming up soon. More details on that when they get released to the public. I still don't know what they are neither. I don't think Tom does either. But we've also got roles in spaces in our Formula One series that runs every Saturday, and LMU on a Wednesday if you want your sports cars with a little bit more poke to them. Equally, if you want to come and join us in the commentary booth, doing broadcast, doing producing, social media, or just chat to other nerds about driving in circles with the pedal set and a steering wheel in your room, then the BUSR is a wonderful place for you. But looking forward to race 2, we've got the 2 job well done teammates of Yagas and Meet the Teacher on the front row, and our really rapid drivers starting at 10th place. So it's going to be interesting, I think, between them. Raul Yagas proved a little bit unreliable in race 1, had that early incident, but they recovered well. I think they're going to be in a strong position if they can, at the very least, lead early on. Whether they'll lead later on, we'll have to find out.
I was very curious there at the start of race 1, as a lot of drivers seem to get bogged down on the start line. Obviously, a very good start out there for Luke Pullen's, for Jack Noller, slightly less so for Luke Pullen. But yeah, the second row of Jordan Pinnock especially didn't get a great start at all out of off the grid slots. So yeah, I find I'm going to be really interested as to see how quickly the compression happens, if it happens even before turn 1, that is.
Definitely, we saw that Luke Pullen got a cracking start, and some of our other drivers maybe struggled a little bit. Here's John B. He's now starting behind Owen Goldsmith. This is the first time that John will see the back end of Owen's car, I think, for the last 20 minutes or so. Hopefully, for Owen's sake, John B won't pass him again. Otherwise, he could get stuck behind the driver for the next foreseeable month, maybe. The lights are starting to come on, though, as we get ready for race number 2 of the day. It is round 4 at Autopolis. We had a cracking race 1, and here we go for a cracking race 2. Raul Yagas and Meet the Teacher line up on the front row as the lights come on for race number 2 of the day. It's rock and roll, let's go racing in Japan. Great start from our pole sitter. He manages to defend it well. Meet the Teacher coming straight across. Those two go line astern, ready to defend that lead into turn 1. Goldsmith and John B already side by side. They've been fighting all day so far. They're fighting again off the start, but Owen keeps it up keeps third off of the race start. It seems to be pretty organised behind the car, sort of staying 2 by 2. There's a little bit of bumping there between GT Nismo and Luke Pullen, I believe that was, but they keep it clean. Oh, this is very close as we see another one of our cars dropping further down the order. Luke Pullen, though, still not managed to make any ground up, but it's very early days, so they think they'll be fine for now there. They're doing what we told they said they need to do. They're keeping their nose clean. We've got cars 2 wide, as we always do off the race start. But look at that, Jack Noller already up to 6th place there. He's got a car going up his inside. That's John B fighting very, very hard there. Does he know who's the series champion? Yes, he probably does know that he's fighting to defend the current championship leader. But no, he doesn't care. And if he does care, he wouldn't care. He's got Aidan Larson on his outside either, because he's fighting like an absolute lion against these rapid drivers. But Noller, can he make the place stick? You have to think he's going to just push him a little bit wide onto the grass. There we go. Noller goes through, keeps it clean. There's 2 cars off in the background, completely destroyed their race. They're as good as done. But Raul Yagas leads at the end of lap 1. Meet the Teacher, then Owen Goldsmith, and then Ansel, and then this mega big fight between Ruji, Noller, John B, Larson, Pinnock and Pullen.
Yeah, Luke Pullen, as we go 3 wide down into turn 1, Pullen on the inside, and yeah, really sort of pulling off a good move there, excuse the pun. But yeah, not a great start from Luke Pullen when you compare that to Jack Noller, who moved up 4 places almost instantly, whereas Luke Pullen did go back at the start. But yeah, a much cleaner turn 1 from all of our drivers, it has to be said, and I think this is quite possibly the cleanest start that we've seen so far this season. There's a very opportunistic lunge up the inside of turn 6 for Luke Pullen, who's now right on the back of Jack Noller, and the battle between these two will be very entertaining to watch, I'm very sure.
Yeah, Luke Pullen with a brave move, but it was a move that made it stick, and that is what differentiates your good drivers from your championship contenders there. A lesser driver would have gone too deep or not gone deep enough and would have caused a crash or spun out or lost the place, but Luke nailed it. You might be a little bit sketchy, but he nailed it, and now he's back behind Jack Noller. Those two have survived the first 2 laps. Here we go. Now they've got to start setting the lap times. They know they can. The leaders are somewhere in the mid 1:13s. These guys are in the mid 12s when they're in clean air. So here we go. This is where we see, can they get through the pack? Will they work together to fight their way to the front, or will they bicker and let the teammates of Raul Jagas and Meet the Teacher ahead run away with it?
And I think in this race, we're going to see a somewhat opposite effect of what we saw in race 1, where the entire pack's going to become gradually more and more compressed instead of more and more spread out, which for us as commentators and for you as the viewers is going to make it a far more entertaining show for sure. But for some of the drivers like Jack Noller and Luke Pullen, who just want to get on with it, possibly not ideal for them. As we cut back to Aiden Larson down in 11th place, he really does need to get a wiggle on if he wants to take any more championship points out of Jack Noller in P1. Of course, it's Jack Noller in P1.
Of course it is. The two dress-up Dowling cars there getting stuck behind Kessler. So a driver that if you've ever raced against him, you'll know exactly how ferocious he is behind the wheel. A driver who will never let anything slide in that really cool liveried Space Invaders themed car. The two dress-up Dowlings also in a rather distinct livery. We've got fastest laps coming in from our front runners. Noller putting in the fastest lap of the race. That was a 1:13.4 from him. Faster than obviously anybody ahead, because that's how fastest lap works in motor racing. Hopefully he'll be able to keep making those lap times in, but he has got the Italian wall up ahead. It is Ruggi that he needs to get past before he can make a bid for the podium. So I'm sure he's raced against Ruggi before. We've seen Ruggi's defence. He's defended hard against everybody up and down the grid basically. So they'll all be very aware of how good he is. So we're gonna have to see if this track lends towards him. It certainly did in race 1. Ruggi putting in that great defence there. So the Italian hoping to defend from the Brit, the McLaren livery against the WRT, not the BMW team racing car. They're all behind Ansel right now, who appears to be the cork in the bottle, but it's too early really to call that just yet.
And really, you have to go all the way down to 13th place Alex Hughes to find a gap that's much larger than a second. All of our drivers really up together here, as we see Jack Noller pulling a move down the inside, both of them sideways. Andrea Ruggi couldn't have seen that one coming, was already on the brakes, not even looking in his mirrors by the time Jack Noller had put that one down the inside. But yeah, getting the toe there from the Rev Sport International liveried car of Jake Ansel in front, and should be a fairly easy move down the inside into turn 1. But as we've seen before, as they do bang doors, and that does allow Luke Pullen to come through, and this duo, might they work their way up all the way to the front, going car by car, both ramming their way through? Well, ramming probably not, the stewards won't see that very fondly, but certainly they're taking advantage of a small mistake by Andrea Ruggi, who, it must be said, didn't last long in the defence of his 5th place. Yeah,
not what we're used to there, but Noller and Pullen know they need to get the work done if they want to keep going. But the gaps are not extending. The leaders are a little trio of Jagas, Mittiger and Goldsmith, but they're not really pulling away from Ansel, who isn't pulling away at all, as we can very clearly see on screen from Noller or Pullen. But these two, they don't seem to be hampering each other, Noller and Pullen. Pullen seems to be being very patient. They're trying to go around both sides through the very tight turn 11 there of Ansel, but not quite making it stick. But Owen Goldsmith sets the fastest lap of the race so far. He is on fire. He's closing back in. This is the Owen of old that we know from last season, showing his true pace. Here we go, down towards turn 1, where we saw that daring move from Noller last time out, but he can't quite make the move on Ansel, just a little bit too far back. He's got the time. He can still see Jagas up ahead. He doesn't need to panic. When he starts to lose sight, then he maybe needs to start panicking, needs to start thinking. But for now, he's quite happy just to sit there and make up time where he can. We know he's a rapid driver, so we'll have to see what he can do. Just behind Ansel now, still running around together, but the gap at the start, it's not really growing. The gap's hovering pretty well despite this Ansel train choo-choo. As we head down towards 30 minutes to go, 7 minutes of this race down, and we've already seen multiple places climbed for our championship contenders.
And if Jake Ansel can just keep them behind a couple more laps longer, then it would really allow this top pair, to be honest, to run away with things, as Owen Goldsmith drops back into the clutches of these drivers we see on the screen right now. But yeah, nearly 2 seconds is the gap, as that, yeah, commentator's curse. as Jake Ansell goes straight on through the gravel trap at the final corner and releases Jack Noller and Luke Pullen to run after Owen Goldsmith. And to be fair, let's say, let's be honest, P2 and P1 as of Raul Jagas and Meet the Teacher. But Andrea Ruggi on the attack, we normally see him defending. This time we switched it around for a dive down the inside as there's door-to-door contact between, and more continued door-to-door contact between him and Ansell down into the braking zone of turn 3.
Yep, it's the rough and tumble racing you get when you're basically doing touring cars with the power going through the wrong wheels that we know and love in this series, but that Jake Ansell holds it despite the Italian's best attempts to make the move. So he's now going to keep hold of that position, at least for now. We'll avoid commentators cursing it any more than we can do, or than we have to, sorry. John B and Jordan Pinnock, though, haven't really made the progress. Jordan Pinnock's definitely not made the progress we were hoping, or he'd be hoping for. He got that stunning first race result, so we know he's got the pace, but he's just stuck behind John B, who is in turn stuck behind Andrea Ruggi, who, as we've seen, are two of the best defenders on the grid. Coming round towards the tight hairpin there where Ansell made their move last time around. Let's see what we get. Our first lap time in free air for Noller and Pullen. It's a 1 minute 12.9 for Noller. He immediately goes fastest of overall. Pullen couldn't quite put it out together, so they were a little bit slower, but Noller immediately faster than the cars ahead, closes up by 6/10, and it's now very much a side-to-side action between Pinnock and John B, who makes the dive up the inside there. Pinnock, that is. He's claimed that position back. Now he's going to have to go after the Ruggi Ansell battle, and maybe hope they make a mistake. You know, you don't really want to wish it, but if it gains you points, it gains you points.
And yeah, the race really going from not so great to slightly worse for Jake Ansell, who's again lost the position to Andrea Ruggi. I believe he looked a little bit slow coming out of turn 1, so perhaps a mistake as Jordan Pinnock looks to the outside. And if he's not careful, this might be 3 positions lost in the space of 1 lap. So, yeah, really not an exemplary race from him. Another driver, it must be mentioned though, who's not had an exemplary race is Aidan Larson, down in 11th place. We were commenting on how his pace was improving over the course of race number 1 this evening, but it hasn't seemed to click for him. Maybe bottled up behind Kessis, who he seems to have been behind for an awful long time here. Maybe he's just making that GR86 as wide as possible, is Kessis. But as we switch back to this battle here for 7th place.
Yep, Jordan and John having another crack at it. John on the outside, Jordan on the inside. There's a lot of late moving there. Nothing too wrong, but there's a car very wide, and that is Jake Ansell, who we just need to stop talking about. I think that's all as our duty as commentators to stop mentioning his name. But yeah, he's lost another couple of places now. Jordan up to 7th, John B up to 8th, Jake down to 9th, Aidan up to 10th, so he's, you know, there or thereabouts in the top 10. But if he wants to mount the championship challenge, he needs to get a heck of a lot closer to Jack Noller, and really quite quickly.
And yeah, back on the topic of Jack Noller, who's really tight up behind the back end of Owen Goldsmith. Neither of them have been able to make a lot of progress on Raul Jagas and Meet the Teacher out in front, as down the inside into the final turn. This seems to be Jack Noller's signature move around here. It's a fantastic move, it must be said. Can start chasing after the 2 in front. The gap has nearly 3 seconds with 9 minutes left of the race. I think he should be able to close this down, but Luke Pullen slightly dropped away there in the background. Whether that's down to him cooking his tyres or maybe making a mistake, I'm not sure, but yeah, seems to be dropping back quite a lot. The gap's extended there from about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds in just the space of the last couple of corners. So maybe he's carrying some sort of issue. Maybe he's picked up some damage somewhere. Maybe the tyres are just absolutely dead. But yeah, really surprising. This isn't what we saw at all in race 1. No,
Jack Noller very much proving he's got that championship winning consistency, I think it has to be said, by putting in this stunning, not recovery drive, but drive through the grid. As we see him now up onto the podium, he started in 9th. He's got the most ballast on the grid by a decent margin over anybody close to him. He's got 30 more kilos than Owen and 35 more than Meet the Teacher, the car he's now chasing down. But his lap times are well and truly exemplary, I think is the way to describe it, especially now that he's got free air. That 2-second gap to the teammates of Jagas and Meet the Teacher up ahead is going to evaporate like a puddle of water under a hot summer sun.
Yeah, absolutely. don't give Jack Noller any respite would be my advice. But yeah, Raul Yagas looking to expand that gap out in front. It's now nearly up to a second, and Meet the Teacher maybe has fallen off the back of it slightly. But if they could just keep turning themselves round, Raul Yagas, remember, has got no ballast, so will be one of the quickest cars on these straights. Maybe they can just keep Jack Noller at bay for long enough to not have to worry about him as... Yeah, dare I say it, Jake Ansell, I'm sorry whatever we did to you to curse you like this. It definitely needs a steward's inquiry after the end of the race, but tumbles down to 14th after that. Little bit of contact between turn 1 and turn 3. Yeah, not a great day for him.
Definitely not. But look, we've got our two leaders. They're still running nose to tail exactly as they left the grid 14 and, well, nearly 14 minutes ago. It is Raul Yagas and Meet the Teacher. They're teammates, they're friends. They're driving like a pair, and they're driving like they want this 1-2 almost more than they want individually to win. I'm sure Raul Yagas is happy, but it's this way round. But Meet the Teacher seems to be quite content in second. They've not thrown any moves. They're putting in competitive lap times. Both of them are in the low 13s. Obviously, we just saw a fastest lap, well, temporarily fastest lap for Meet the Teacher. Andrea Rucci puts in a very quick lap as well, as did Luke Pullen. So we're seeing these two work together, which is what they need to do. Noller is behind them, and he is faster. That's the flat line of it on the last lap. Noller was at a 1:13 dead. Meet the Teacher was at a high 1:12, so not getting time on them. But Raul Yagas was at a 1:13.3. So the gap is closing. It's currently at 3 seconds. So it's not insurmountable, but it's not going to be easy for the championship leader. These two drivers, both of them have scored decently in BUSR events of past. Don't get me wrong, they're both very successful drivers. They've been here for donkey's years. But Raul Yagas has never got a race win in the BUSR Assetto Corsa. He's got 2 podiums to his name, but he's never got that elusive first race win. So he will be hoping, I should imagine, quite a lot that Jack Noller doesn't get any closer than he already is. Meet the Teacher, however, he has scored that win. He got it last season out of Bathurst. So he is definitely fighting for his team here. They're very nose to tail. They're running almost as one entity at this point, but they are losing time to Noller. The gap now down to 2.5 seconds.
And as we were mentioning in the first race, maybe Meet the Teacher could borrow some Mexican Minister of Defense Sergio Perez defensive tactics to keep Jack Noller at bay, give Raul Yagas this first win in the BUSR Championship. But one driver who is going faster than Jack Noller is Luke Pullen. Maybe has found that pace and has got the gap to Owen Goldsmith down under a second. So potentially slightly too far away to catch Jack Noller should he keep up the current pace. But a 4th place and a 1st place wouldn't be too bad a result, as we see the two teammates getting to know each other, getting a bit too close for comfort there, as Aidan Larson side by side with Ben Gilroy. Ben Gilroy gives the position back, as would be expected from that little bit of nose to tail contact.
Yep, they're fighting nice and hard over what is, for both of these drivers, not really where they should be. We expect better from Aidan Larson, but he's got a lot of ballast, and we've seen this. The ballast is it can be a big difference here. Not the deciding factor, as of course Jack Noller is proving, but the ballast does have a major effect. So the dress-up darling cars need to be careful not to trip over each other, and just to focus on John B, work together like the two leaders are, and make the points where they make to recover as much as they can from what has been a less than successful Monday evening in the land of the rising sun for them.
I'll tell you what, I think Jack Noller has not closed by anywhere near as much as we thought he would. Still 3 seconds back from Raul Yagas and Meet the Teacher. Whether there's some team play going on here between the top two, I'm not too sure. We saw that in the first race, bump drafting was certainly possible. Maybe they pulled that out and they're out their sleeve. Maybe they pulled that card. But yeah, Luke Pullen, if he can continue to keep up the pace that he's been on, the gap of 2 seconds is a bit too far to close, to be perfectly honest, to Jack Noller. Maybe needs to start getting a little bit aggressive with Owen Goldsmith, who so far this race we've seen to be pretty good in defence. So yeah, will this white livery Toyota GR86 be able to get past Owen Goldsmith in time to challenge Jack Noller? I'm not too sure, but one thing that I am certain about is Rory Agus and Meet the Teacher. What a fantastic duo they have made this race to really extend this gap over Jack Noller. And of all the first race wins you could have, this one would potentially be the sweetest as onto the grass goes Luke Pullen.
Yeah, massive slide there. He's obviously struggling with the car, whether that's due to overheating tyres or just not in the right headspace anymore for it. He's definitely not running the pace we know he can. Owen Goldsmith will be happy to see this, of course, join other people's suffering, as we see the Just Up Darling cars still suffering behind John B. They still can't find a way past. He has been a bottle in the cook for some very competitive drivers. They're almost tripping over each other there as Aidan backs into Ben Gilroy. That is not the kind of moves you want to be seeing this late into race 2 of the day. We're under 2 minutes to go, when with a 1 minute 12 lap time for our front runners. That is not really what you want to be doing. But John B learned how to defend very well in race 1 against Owen, so he knows exactly where to put the car. Aidan and Ben, they've struggled all evening to make up places, so this is going to be very tough for the Aussie and his British teammate to make any sort of moves going forward.
It always helps to have a teammate in these sorts of situations. Maybe can do the duo on John B, but considering how long they have been stuck behind John B and stuck sitting in 6th place, I don't see any way through it unless Aidan Larson goes for the old mind punt into turn 1, as he got very close to the back of John B there. But yeah, not really closing on the gap to Luke Pullen in front. The gap over 5 seconds, of course, to our race 1 winner. So John B can really just pull out all the defensive stops, get Andrea Ruggi on the phone really, and learn how to defend from these 2 teammates, as he keeps the car really tightly narrow into the apex of turn 6 to not let these guys have any run on him at any point during this lap.
Yep, he's putting in the defensive moves that he knows he needs to if he wants to keep this 6th place. Once again, would be a very solid haul of points for John B, which is just what you need when you're fighting for student class champion. He's not scored exemplary so far, so 6th place would be, I think he'd be very pleased with it. He's done very well in previous cars, so he's got a race win and a podium, so he's going to be looking for stronger results, and his P6 could be a sign of things to come. Who knows? The clock is just about to hit 0. We have got our +1 lap, so this is not the last lap of the race. This is the penultimate lap of the race, as is confirmed there by the game. Thank you very much for that, fortuitous timing, Assetto Corsa. For once, you're doing us a favour rather than causing us pain. This is probably the closest Larson's been down towards turn 3. Through the very subtle turn 2, he's got the inside line. He's later on the brakes by just a smidge. Rolls off them nice and early. Makes the move. Here comes Ben Gilroy, though, looking for an opportunistic move. They're trying to follow his teammate through. They're going to try and act 2 cars become 1 car. They're not going to quite make a move, though, as John B hugs the inside very tightly through the long hairpin. Now they run down towards the very fast left of 100R. There we go. 1 Just Up Darling's car through. 1 to go. John B now in an anime liveried sandwich. Aidan's got through. A little bit too late to go chasing after Luke Pullen and Owen Goldsmith, you have to say, with a 7-second gap, I believe that says. But it's still, he's got the place, he's got the points. Now he just needs to help, well, maybe even help Ben Gilroy get through. Leader on the final lap. Here we go. 11 turns, not a lot of distance to go for our front runners. And the gap's looking pretty stable, but John B is going to have to try and defend as fiercely as he can if he wants to keep 7th place over Ben Gilroy.
Yeah, and Aidan Larson moving out there. Maybe wanting to give Ben Gilroy a bit of a tow, maybe just doing it to cover off John B going into turn 1, but nothing doing as we look back to this battle for 4th place, which really we thought would have been done and dusted quite some laps ago, but it's come down to the final lap for Luke Pullen to try and get past Owen Goldsmith.
Here we go, as we've got just a few corners for these 2 to contend with if he wants to make the move. Luke Pullen, the gap 0.2 of a second or less on our timing sheet, and they're nose to tail. This is basically how you do copy a line exactly, but of course there's a mistake there, big mistake from Luke Pullen, puts him well out of the running, down towards the last cars. The leader is coming down the start finish straight, so they've not got long left. Probably one overtaking opportunity for Pullen, but he can't quite make it. But coming towards the line, he's been racing with us for 3 seasons. This is his first win. It is Raul Llagas takes victory in Autopolis, a very popular victory, I'm sure, ahead of his teammate. It is a job well done. 1-2, that is the best of jobs they could do. Jack Noller comes across the line in third place. He did get Owen Goldsmith on the run towards the line, and then Luke Pullen, and then Larson, John B, Ben Gilroy, Cassus, and then the rest all following behind Nismo there with 11th place. Good points for them. But that is it. Raul Llagas, we didn't see them all stream all race, and they beat the pack. They held the pace against Luke Sawyer, against Luke Pullen, against Aidan Larson, against Owen Goldsmith, and against Jack Noller. He held the pace and he did it. We see the rest of the cars coming towards the line side by side for Dystopia and Thomas Cannon, and then Bailey bringing up the rear with an 18th position for them. But there we have it. Raul Llagas' debut BUSR win. There we go. A little bit inconsistent before, where they've had podiums. The man from the Philippines has got his race victory.
Yeah, as you said, Dan, an incredibly popular victory there. And I believe one of the first victories this season with a car that has, apart from round one, has carried 0 ballast. So, yeah, maybe ballast did end up playing a massive role in this race, as the gravel donuts, maybe not the best surface to conduct your donuts on, but yeah, deserved nonetheless. Very popular win there, commemorated by his fellow drivers. Also attempting donuts in this rather sticky gravel, but yeah, Raul Llagas, your race 2 winner.
There we go. What a day. Round number 4, that is the racing action complete. We will, of course, have our traditional post-race interviews coming up shortly. So if you want to hear a little bit of insight, then stick around. If you don't, we'll be back at the same time, same place next week. But we are travelling to Germany for that round. So we'll have our interviews coming up shortly. I really hope that we get to speak to Raul Llagas, because I'm sure he's going to be absolutely buzzing after that. I think the first driver we'll speak to should be I think it's going to be Jack Noller. He was a class winner in race 1, on the podium in race 2, and a very solid set of points, all things told, with a lot of ballast on board for Mr. Noller. So I think we'll try and get him in first when he's free. Hello, Mr. Noller. Sorry to drag you away from the conversation. Lots of ballast, but also lots of points.
Yes, I think this track was the biggest one for the difference between the light cars and the heavy cars, because wow, that was hard work. But yeah, I had to work for it, do some stuff in the places I could only just about do it with the speed differences. But yeah, it was enjoyable. Yeah, it was a shame for Sparrow. Again, a mixture of bad luck and technical issues, this time hardware. But nice to see Luke joining us and staying with us. And my excuse with him is he's got a lighter car. So, but he'll... I'm sure, but yeah, congratulations to the guys in the second race, Raul and Meet the Teacher. Like, they drove impeccably to stay calm and not fight too hard, otherwise they would have caught. So that was everything right there. I had a good start, the best start on race 2 that I've had so far. I think the first time I haven't lost places on lap 1. So that was the absolute everything, basically.
So how was it facing up to Luke Pullen for this round? I don't think it would be unfair to say that up to this point in the championship, there's not really been too many other drivers challenging you pace-wise. But yeah, just talk us through how it was to be going toe-to-toe for the first time with somebody who could kind of really bring it to you pace-wise.
It's difficult to say for the first time, because we were very good mates racing MX-5s. So that's been very close. We both know how each other drive, and yeah, we were in Discord together, and stuff like that. But yeah, it was hard work. Obviously, I couldn't just sit around quali, but that wasn't just him. Just Jordan did some amazing laps as well in quali. So was everyone. It was really, really close. You couldn't sit on your laurels at all. You can see how much the ballast probably affected people. Like Aidan really struggled in 10th in quali, and all the heavier guys were a bit further down. So that was everything. But yeah, it was enjoyable to race Luke, even if it wasn't that wheel to wheel, because he was that bit further ahead. But boy, he's got a story to tell you about his race too.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to have him in next, so I'm looking forward to hearing that. But thank you, Mr. Noller, and well done on your points.
Thank you very much.
Up next, like we said, is our international superstar, Mr. Pullen, our race 1 winner. So let's get him in here. Hello there, Mr. Pullen.
Hello.
Cracking race 1. So let's talk through that one first.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it was mega. I was lucky enough to be carrying 0 ballast. So, compared to people like Noller, who was carrying the mass of the sun to try and slow him down, it gave me a bit of an advantage. And with the help of him, in practice as well. I managed to just sort of knuckle down and just keep pumping in the laps, really. It was a really nice race one.
Yeah, and race one, to be honest, we were saying we saw hardly any of you on stream, and also this track was a little bit bare in terms of scenery. So race one, how did you find it? Was it lonely out there at all, or were you just focused on putting the laps in?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't done my makeup. I was a bit camera shy at the time, so I thought I just needed to get out front, drive away. I did no pictures. But it was quite nice. I've had a busy week, so I downloaded the track about 2 hours ago with the help of Nola, because I'm not very tech savvy. So it was kind of nice to sort of be like, oh, I can pump the laps in, hopefully put myself in good stead for the next race as well. But yeah, I was just trying to set up the fastest lap I could every lap and managed to be kind of consistent with it.
Well, of course, we then saw that race 2, and we heard from Mr. Nola that race 2 was not the optimal one. So could you just talk us through what happened there?
My leg is on fire. I think around about 4 or 5 laps in, obviously starting further back on the reverse grid, I was like, right, keen to make up some places. And there was one move where I went up the inside, and it was a real hard braking thing. And I think sometimes you just end up really pushing the brake when you're like, I've got to get it stopped. And in doing so, I think one of the washers in the brake pedal was kind of folded over slightly, so it was dragging by about 3 or 4%. Which in single mate race is quite a lot. So I adapted. I used my big juicy toes to kind of claw the brake pedal, and I found out on the straights I needed to do that. But then I'd get into the braking zones and in the corners, and there was still binding, so the car was acting weird. So it was tricky. Mid corner, coming through turn 1, I'd have to still have my left foot pulling back on the brake once I'd lifted out of it. So I'm glad it's over. I'm happy with the top 5.
Well, that's certainly an interesting new excuse for racing drivers. So, but yeah, you still managed to score solid points, and I hope we'll see you back out next time to get even more.
Yeah, here's hoping. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, our final interview is going to be with our race 2 winner, very, very popular. He's been with us for years. We can't say enough positives about him, Mr. Rao Yagas. Let's get him in here. Rao, talk us through race 2. Let's ignore race 1. Forget it ever happened. Race 2.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. It was great having a teammate right behind me at that start. So we just decided that we were gonna try to run away from the pack. So for me, I quick said that I needed to just get that launch correct, settle in for the first few laps, stay consistent, and then we just didn't fight. I tried to keep him in the slipstream to help him defend, but then we had a 2-second gap to Owen midway through, and we just tried to stay consistent, not fight between us, because we know Jack Noller is gonna go for us if we start fighting.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, you mentioned that your teammate helping you out massively in second place. Was there ever a plan in place if Jack Noller did close up? Was there going to be a Sergio Perez-esque defense move in plan?
Well, the plan was me just stay in front, just try to stay consistent, and then keep meet the teacher in the toe, help him defend. Like wherever he went, and let's say he goes for the inside to defend, I would stay more to the inside to give him the slipstream on the straights. But yeah, luckily Jack had to go through quite a bit of drivers, so luckily we kept that gap going, and yeah.
We can hear the relief in your voice over the broadcast, so I'm sure you must be very, very relieved and very happy, and we're all massive congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of round number 4 of the season. We are now halfway through. That's right, people, we're only halfway through. We've seen new race winners, new championship contenders, fights up and down the grid. We are back next time out in Germany at Oschlersleben. I'm going to learn how to pronounce that before next week. Same time, same place on YouTube. Come and join us. Any last thoughts from you, Tom, before we end the stream?
Well, I know Oschlersleben is a exceptionally interesting track, let's say, as one of the free bits of content on the servers that shall not be named. So it will be very interesting to see how our drivers get on around there. Very different to Autopolis where we've been today, but I'm certainly looking forward to it. Same time next week. So yeah, hope to see you there again soon.
Absolutely. So thank you to all of our viewers for watching, our drivers for driving, our organisers for organising, our producers for producing, and thank you to Tom for talking with me. I've been Dan. Good night.
There is no place and no moment in history where I could stand and say, arithmetic begins here, now. Flame or road.